Scorpio, what if I told you that everything shaking around you right now is not falling apart? It's falling into divine alignment. The house is going to fall, not your physical home, but the spiritual structure you've been clinging to, the one built on outdated trust, silent suffering, and fragile promises. And yes, someone who took what wasn't theirs is about to face a reckoning. But you are being prepared for something sacred: rebirth, restoration, and righteous alignment. You didn't find this video by accident. You were called here through energy, through spirit, through timing. Welcome to Miracle of the Sign, where we don't just read the stars. We listen to the silence between them. We honor the whispers of God, the weight of truth, and the soft but unshakable rhythm of spiritual justice. Today's message for you, Scorpio, is not gentle, but it is holy. You are in a moment of divine disruption. The Tower has appeared in your energetic field, and in the language of both astrology and sacred scripture, that means one thing: what is not built in truth must be brought down, so that what is meant for you can rise. This is not a curse. It's a cleansing. It's not chaos. It's the clearing. You may be facing betrayal, confusion, or emotional disorientation. You may feel like the people closest to you have turned into strangers. But listen closely: someone who tried to hide what they did in darkness is about to be exposed in the light. Whether they stole from you financially, emotionally, or spiritually, God is not blind. And divine justice is already in motion. And yet, this isn't just about what they did. It's about what you're being prepared for. Because even now, as your inner structure shakes, your soul is aligning with a deeper strength. You are being called to pause, to reflect, to let go of what was never meant to be permanent, and to open your hands for what's coming next. And trust me, what's coming next is sacred. So breathe with me. You're not alone here. You're in a community of souls walking this path with you. Every comment, every like, every word of resonance brings you closer to those who are rising just like you from the ashes of illusion to the foundation of truth. And if you've ever felt unseen or unheard, consider this your divine confirmation: you are seen. You are known. And you are being led. Take a moment right now to anchor your energy. Type in the comments: I am ready for divine justice. I surrender the old and welcome the truth. Your words carry frequency. Let them become a doorway. Let them become your alignment. I want to take a sacred pause to thank you deeply for being here, for showing up for yourself. Every view, every like, every comment is a light you add to the spiritual altar we build together here at Miracle of the Sign. Your presence fuels this mission. Your support allows these messages to reach exactly who needs them, maybe someone just like you. And Scorpio, trust me, you'll want to stay with me until the very end of this message. Because what the universe is revealing today isn't just guidance, it's a spiritual intervention. Now tell me, dear Scorpio, what was it that called you here today? Let's begin. Scorpio energy is no stranger to destruction, but what often gets overlooked is how sacred that destruction truly is. When the Tower card appears, especially in your reading, it does not come to punish, but to liberate. And liberation, dear Scorpio, often comes disguised as collapse. What looks like ruin is actually the undoing of illusions. The Tower, ruled by Pluto, your planetary guardian, is not a villain, but a surgeon. It removes what's decaying at the core, even if it still looks functional on the surface. You may have built your inner world around habits, relationships, or mindsets that were never meant to last. Like a house built on shifting sand, they gave you shelter once, but now they've become cages. And the universe, in its infinite love, would rather see you in temporary discomfort than permanent confinement. This moment is not chaos. It is clarity. The walls are falling not to harm you, but to show you what's still standing when everything else goes. Maybe it's your intuition, maybe it's your capacity to endure, maybe it's a long-buried dream that's been waiting for space to breathe. And now, hear you in the stillness that follows the storm with a single question echoing in your soul. What can I build that will last this time? There's a deep invitation in this phase, and it's not about fixing things fast. It's about feeling what's surfacing. Write down what feels unstable. Sit with the discomfort. Let the ache reveal the architecture of what you were holding together by sheer willpower. The tower doesn't just break, it blesses. It makes space. And what it makes space for is authenticity. You may notice your body asking for simpler things during this transition. Lighter food. Calmer spaces. More silence. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Emotional healing is not just spiritual, it's physical. That chamomile tea you sip before bed isn't just a drink, it's medicine. The dark blue sweater you're drawn to isn't a fashion choice, it's energy shielding your heart. Let your nervous system guide you back to stillness. Let your senses become the compass home. Even the simple act of journaling 5 minutes a day can become a ritual of sacred release. Ask yourself, what is rotting within me that needs to be let go? That question isn't negative, it's honest. And honesty is the root of spiritual resilience. Write without editing. Let the page hold what your heart can't carry anymore. Pluto does not tolerate pretense, and neither should you not anymore. Let the old structure go. The career that drains your soul, the love that punishes instead of uplifts, the belief that tells you you're only worthy when you're useful. Let them all fall. Because once they do, you will begin again, not from scratch, but from truth. And truth, unlike illusion, doesn't collapse. This is your wilderness season, but wilderness is not abandonment. It's preparation. You're not lost, you're being reoriented. The map is changing, yes, but so are you. And what's on the other side of this is not just healing, it's holy alignment. This is not the end. It's the invitation to build something unshakable. So take this time not to rush into rebuilding, but to reroot yourself. In presence. In peace. In a future you get to co-create, not survive. This is the beginning of your real homecoming. Betrayal doesn't always come crashing in like thunder. Sometimes it enters quietly, cloaked in kindness, whispering promises it never intended to keep. And for those with Scorpio energy running deep through their chart, the pain isn't just in what was taken, it's in who took it. You don't give your trust easily, and when you do, you give all of yourself fiercely, loyally, without condition. So when someone steals not just something material, but a part of your belief in people, it doesn't just sting, it shakes the very foundation you built your inner safety on. In astrology, Scorpio is the sign of depth, truth, and karmic cycles. When justice appears in your energetic landscape, it is not random. It is a mirror. It's the universe stepping in and saying, "You've carried this long enough. Let me lift it now." The justice archetype is not vengeance. It's alignment. It's the return of what was displaced. And when it visits Scorpio, it brings with it a precision that no one escapes, not even those who seemed untouchable. What was stolen from you may not be visible to others. It may have been a lost opportunity that only you and the stars knew about. It may have been a silence that kept you awake at night, wondering how someone could act as if nothing had happened after crossing a boundary they promised to protect. The world may have forgotten, but energy remembers. The law of cause and effect is in constant motion. And while you may not see the moment their consequences arrive, you will feel the relief that balance has returned. You will sense the weight shifting, the space clearing. You will know when the scale tips back in your favor, not as revenge, but as release. But here's the truth that only the brave can embrace. Waiting for justice to unfold is an invitation to rise into your own power, not stay stuck in your pain. The soul work now isn't just about watching karma play out. It's about choosing not to be defined by the wound. It's about turning the energy of betrayal into fuel for self-trust. And one of the most powerful practices you can do in this moment is simple: write a letter. Not to accuse. Not to demand. But to empty. To clear. To release. Write it as if you were handing over the anger, the confusion, the "why me" to the greater force of balance. Let the words carry the pain out of your chest and onto the page, so it no longer has to sit in your energy field. You don't need to send it. You only need to surrender it. That's where your liberation begins. Colors hold frequency, and in this time, you may find yourself drawn to shades of deep red or crimson. That's no coincidence. These tones activate your root chakra, helping to transmute stuck energy, especially where survival, fear, or betrayal has settled in your body. Surround yourself with this vibration. Let it remind you that you're still grounded even after everything. You are not here to carry what they did. You're here to witness the rise of your own strength through it. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet closure. A conversation that finally makes sense. A truth revealed through someone else's fall. Or even a moment where you look in the mirror and realize you're no longer hurting, you're healing. So if you're ready to let the scales of the universe bring closure, type it now. Let your voice ripple through this shared space. I am ready for justice. I allow the light to reveal the truth. Your words matter. Your healing matters. And this moment right now is part of the restoration you've been waiting for. There's a quiet moment on every healing journey when the soul begins whispering for companionship, not in the form of a crowd or noise, but in the subtle arrival of someone who simply gets it. After all the chaos, after the betrayals, after the inner walls have come crashing down, what often remains is a hollowed space, a sacred vacancy waiting to be filled by someone who doesn't need to be explained. In astrology, Scorpio governs intimacy, but not the kind born from convenience. It's the kind born from shared depth, silent recognition, and transformative presence. And when your energy reaches a point of readiness, not perfection, but honest openness, that's when the universe tends to respond. Sometimes, the answer doesn't come in the form of a resolution. It comes as a person. Someone who enters quietly but carries a vibration that immediately settles the nervous system. This is what we call a guardian soul. Not to save you, but to walk beside you. Not to speak over your pain, but to sit with it without trying to fix it. These people arrive when you no longer need validation from the world but are finally willing to accept gentleness without suspicion. You'll recognize them not by what they say, but by how you feel in their presence. As if your nervous system is exhaling for the first time in years. This is not romance. This is resonance. It could be a friend, a teacher, even someone who enters through the most ordinary doorway, a conversation at a cafe, a connection online, a chance encounter. What matters is the energetic signature. They meet you where you are without shrinking who you are. And in that meeting, something begins to unlock inside of you that's been bolted shut since before you can remember. The law of attraction teaches that like attracts like, not in external similarity, but in vibrational alignment. When your heart begins to soften after long periods of survival mode, when you stop wearing your pain as armor and start using it as wisdom, your field changes. You stop attracting people who need to be saved and start attracting people who reflect the strength you've reclaimed. These guardian souls arrive not to complete you, but to remind you that you were never broken. During this phase, you may feel drawn to soft, nurturing colors like peach or rose quartz. This isn't aesthetics, it's energetic. These tones carry the frequency of compassion, of the sacred feminine, of divine acceptance. Wearing these colors, or simply surrounding yourself with them, becomes a way to signal to the universe and to yourself that you are creating space for trust again. If you've been walking through loneliness, not just the absence of people but the deeper ache of feeling unseen, then this is your signal that connection is returning. But it begins with your openness. Start by creating a practice each night, however simple. Write it down. Whisper it out loud. I am open to receiving a healing soul into my life. Let that intention become a seed. And like all sacred things, give it time to root. This is where you transition from endurance to expansion. From surviving alone to healing in the presence of someone whose presence doesn't demand, but gently reminds. You are not too much. You are not too late. You are simply in a chapter where the right person is finally allowed to enter. So ask yourself now, not from desperation but from a place of sacred curiosity, if someone showed up in your life to reflect how far you've come, would you let them see the real you? The one who's no longer hiding behind wounds, but blooming through them? The arrival of a guardian soul is not the end of the journey, it's the turning point. A moment where your growth becomes visible not just to yourself, but to the universe mirrored through another. And when they appear, may you have the courage to say yes. There comes a point on every soul's path when safety begins to feel more like suffocation than sanctuary. And Scorpio, with your deep instinct to transform and shed what no longer serves, you already know that moment is now. Staying in the familiar may bring comfort to your nervous system, but it slowly drains the spirit. A job that once felt stable may now feel stagnant. A routine that once provided structure may now feel like a cage. And this quiet tension between who you were and who you're becoming is not a coincidence, it's a sign. The universe is offering you a crossroad, not to test you, but to invite you into alignment with something far greater than comfort, purpose. In astrology, the sign of Scorpio governs transformation, but also power, true, soul-rooted power. And that power doesn't come from maintaining control. It comes from surrendering to growth. Right now, you're being called to ask yourself a question that echoes louder than any paycheck or title. Is this path still honoring my evolution? If the answer feels unsure, that's not failure, it's awakening. From the perspective of energetic alignment, when you feel a persistent dissonance between your inner truth and your outer reality, it's a signal that your frequency is rising and your environment hasn't caught up yet. That's when resistance builds fatigue, frustration, loss of inspiration. These are not weaknesses. They're indicators. They're whispers from your higher self saying, there's more. More fulfillment, more impact, more soul-level satisfaction, but only if you're willing to step into the unknown with intention. This doesn't mean quit everything overnight. That's not courage, that's chaos. The path forward requires discernment and design. This is a time for reflection and planning, not impulsive rebellion. Start by assessing where you are with clarity and compassion. Use tools like a personal SWOT analysis to lay out your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, not to judge yourself, but to prepare your foundation. Begin setting aside resources, even in small amounts, to support your shift. This isn't just financial, it's energetic preparation. You're telling the universe, I'm getting ready for what's next. The law of attraction responds not just to dreams, but to readiness. Vague wishing attracts vague results. But intentional preparation activates the magnetic field around you to pull in the people, pathways, and possibilities you need. The more specific your vision, the more powerful your pull. That's why strategy isn't separate from spirituality, it's part of it. You may feel pulled toward colors like jade or deep green right now. That's not accidental. These tones are linked to wisdom, clarity, and the heart chakra, center of courageous choice. Wearing them, meditating with them, or even incorporating them into your space can anchor you into that vibration of mindful transition. Let your environment reflect the readiness you're cultivating internally. Leaving your comfort zone is never easy, especially for a sign like Scorpio who bonds deeply even to what hurts. But courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're willing to move forward with the fear because you trust what's ahead more than you fear what's behind. This is your turning point. Not just a career decision, but a soul choice. So if you feel the rumble beneath your feet, this sense that what once fit no longer belongs, in panic. Prepare. Take the first step, even if it's small. Comment below, I allow myself to step beyond my comfort zone to live my soul's mission. Say it, write it, embody it. Because the moment you choose alignment, the path begins to rise up and meet you. And on that path, Scorpio, you are unstoppable. Sometimes healing doesn't come with a grand epiphany or sudden wave of joy. Sometimes, it begins with a quiet decision, the decision to stop participating in your own suffering. And that's where you are now. After all the crumbling, all the confrontation, all the truth that's risen to the surface in your recent chapters, there is a moment of deep, soul-level stillness calling you inward. Not to fight. Not to run. But to release. The card of Kura Energetis Energy Healing enters your reading like a whispered permission slip from the universe to let go of what no longer belongs in your energy field. It's not dramatic. It's sacred. This is where many people falter. They think freedom always feels like fireworks. But in truth, freedom often feels like emptiness at first. Because when you've spent years tangled in a connection, a dynamic, or a belief that made you shrink to stay safe, the act of untangling leaves you raw. That rawness is not weakness, it's the sign that you've stopped numbing. And when Scorpio energy begins to feel again, something powerful begins to stir. the rebirth you were always destined for. From an energetic perspective, this stage of your journey is about detox. You are not just leaving behind a person or a situation, you are stepping out of a version of yourself that you built for survival. Maybe you stayed quiet to keep the peace. Maybe you tried to earn love by overgiving. Maybe you believed the lie that being strong meant being alone. But the truth is, healing isn't about becoming a better version of who others wanted you to be. It's about coming home to who you really are before the world taught you to dim your light to be acceptable. In the healing arts, cord cutting is one of the most important energetic tools for this kind of transition. Not because it severs love, but because it severs attachment to pain, guilt, or shame that you've carried out of loyalty or fear. The act of consciously releasing those cords, whether through meditation, journaling, or ritual, is not a rejection of the past. It's a reclaiming of your future. And when you do it with tenderness, when you say goodbye to old versions of yourself with compassion instead of condemnation, you make space for a gentler kind of power to rise within you. Color therapy reminds us that everything vibrates, even light. And this week, your spirit may be drawn to soft whites, creams, and gentle earth tones. These colors soothe the nervous system and signal to your body that it is safe to let go. Safe to begin again. Safe to stop guarding your softness. Don't underestimate the healing potential of your environment. What you wear, what you surround yourself with, even the way you arrange your space can affirm the new identity you're stepping into. And as you move through this part of your journey, try writing a letter not to someone else, but to the self you're saying goodbye to. The version of you who held it together when no one was watching. Who endured more than anyone will ever know. Tell them thank you. Tell them it's okay to rest now. Tell them you're ready to lead from a new place. This is not the end. This is the threshold. And when you cross it, not with force but with grace, you become a lighthouse not just for yourself, but for others walking through their own storms in silence. Say this out loud if it resonates: I am ready to step into the light. I release the past without resentment. Let that be your anchor. Not as a performance, but as a prayer. A quiet act of self-respect. Because what's coming isn't just healing, it's wholeness. And it's already on its way. Scorpio, if you've made it to this moment right here, right now, then something inside you is already shifting. The house may be falling, but it's only making space for something stronger, something more aligned, something that actually honors the soul you've become. You're not being punished. You're being invited into the next version of your life. And that invitation doesn't require you to be fearless, it just asks that you show up with willingness. A willingness to let go. A willingness to start again. A willingness to believe that healing is not a miracle reserved for others, it's a promise waiting for your yes. Everything we explored today, from the collapse of illusions to the exposure of betrayal, from the arrival of soul-level connections to the whisper of career redirection, from emotional release to energetic rebirth, was not meant to overwhelm you. It was meant to awaken you. To offer a lantern in the dark and remind you that no matter how far you've drifted from your own truth, the way back is always lit from within. So take a breath and ask yourself gently, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves who I'm becoming? What truth have I been afraid to face, not because I can't handle it, but because it will demand change? What would shift in my life if I trusted that I'm worthy of starting over, not in shame, but in strength? Remember, you don't need to rebuild your entire world in a day. You only need to take one step. one choice toward alignment. One moment of saying, "This version of me deserves better." And if today's message touched something real in you, don't let it stay a passing moment. Let it be a turning point. Share your heart in the comments. Say it out loud. Claim it. Write, "I am rising in the light. I choose to heal. I choose to build a life that honors my soul." Your words matter. They anchor your intention. They help you cross the bridge from reflection to transformation. And if this video gave you even a small piece of peace, clarity, or motivation, please like, subscribe, and stay connected here with us at Miracle of the Sign. Every comment you leave, every name you share for prayer in our basket of light, becomes part of a growing field of healing energy that we nurture together. Your presence supports this channel, and more than that, it supports your own spiritual journey. I'm grateful you're here. Before you go, ask yourself one last thing. What would happen if, just for today, you stopped waiting for a sign and became one? Because maybe, just maybe, this entire message was heaven's way of reminding you, you're not being broken down. You're being rebuilt from truth. And that, dear Scorpio, is nothing short of sacred.